My name is Mathew Cassidy, Managing Director. I'm joined today by Matthew Leong as Senior Portfolio Analyst. And a big warm welcome to Matthew, who's recently returned from living in Malaysia, obviously due to COVID, and is joining us today and certainly been working with our group for the last 7 years. What we'd like to cover off today is obviously a reflection on how things are playing out, firstly in the domestic economy, the world economy, have a conversation about observations in the property market, some recent portfolio changes, and then observations for the balance of 2021. Matthew, in terms of general market outlook on the Australian economy, how are you seeing things at the current point in time?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So the Australian economy is really strong. Over the last few months, we've had a series of upgrades in the economic data that we've been seeing. So business confidence, consumer sentiment, they're all very strong. Employment data is very strong. So we are very positive on the Australian economy today.
Obviously, the other key point is how prosperous the property market has been as well. Households are absolutely flush with cash, probably coming off a 12-month period where most households haven't had much of a chance to spend a lot of excess capacity. We've obviously seen some interest rate cuts, some tax cuts, and people are refocusing on their properties to actually understand how they are spending their time in their houses, all at a point in time where there's been a lack of supply. So I think one of the hottest topics at the moment has been the property market. One thing we follow very closely, certainly from the investment opportunity perspective, but also for our clients. And I think the balance of 2021 and through to 2022 will be a very positive period, for the property market. And I think the key thing for investors is to observe what's going on, hopefully not chase it too much, but it certainly will be an interesting run. Matt, what about the international economy at the current point in time?
Yeah, so the international economy is going pretty well as well. It's a bit more mixed than Australia. So in the US, it's very strong, thanks to the high vaccination rate that we're seeing. The US is doing about 3 million vaccinations a day, and we expect about 70% of the population to receive a single dose by June. So in terms of the US recovery, we're seeing very strong figures there. On the back of that, in Europe, it's a little bit more mixed. In Europe, we're having a slower vaccination rate, and things are looking a little bit more difficult for them. We do see European manufacturing very strong. So overall, we're still fairly positive on Europe as well and the rest of the global economy.
And you've just returned from the Asian region. How are things faring out in Asia at the moment?
Yeah, so in Asia, it's a bit more mixed. It really depends on what countries you're looking at. So obviously we have the India situation, which is starting to recover now, but still pretty bad. In China, it was more of a first in, first out situation, and they're already back to pre-COVID levels, and they're actually coming off the peak recovery cycle. So it really just depends on where you are.
What about this conversation that's often in the media? Are we facing an asset bubble? Could we see a major market disruption at the moment?
Yeah, so valuations are pretty high in certain areas, and there's definitely some froth in certain areas of the market. But overall, we do think that the market isn't too overvalued. First of all, you're getting very strong earnings growth coming back into the market, and we're going to see those valuations come down over the next couple of years.
Yeah. I think the key point as well is that we remain relatively certain of the view that we won't see an immediate inflation shock, which actually would cause some substantial reduction off the back of the fact we're not seeing some substantial wage growth. Matt, what are some of the recent portfolio changes we've made, and maybe a couple of names in the Australian equities we've been looking at?
Yeah, so since the turn of the year, we've been very positive on cyclicals. So we've been adding to financials and to miners as well. In terms of miners, we've actually added Oz Minerals of late, and we're very positive on that company in terms of their growth profile and the strength of the copper price.
Yeah. What about for the end of 2021 playing out into 2022? How are we seeing things, and what can we look forward to?
Yeah, so in Australia, we are very positive on the economy. We think the recovery will continue to be strong as we close out 2021. We're not seeing any slowdown in any of the economic figures at this stage, but we do expect that at some point over the next year, we will hit peak recovery and there will be a bit of a slowdown from those high growth levels.
Thank you very much for joining us for the markets update. Hope you've enjoyed the session. Thank you.